If you have never heard of the name Seamus Heaney, let us acquaint you with him and his legacy. Seamus Justin Heaney, born in 1939 and died in 2013, was an Irish poet, playwright, and translator. He is widely recognized as one of the major postmodern poets of 20th century, and is also remembered for translating the Old English epic Beowulf. As implied by its name, Seamus Heaney's age, the postmodernist period, occurred directly after the modernist period. Events that inspired this movement were the end of World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, the Cold War, and the Civil Rights Movement. Postmodernism works were characterized by multiple qualities, such as heavy reliance on techniques like fragmentation, paradox, and questionable narrators, and is often, though not exclusively, defined as a style or trend which emerged in the post-World War II era. The postmodern literary age encompasses a wide range of genres, including both traditional forms and innovative approaches to storytelling. Postmodern fiction is characterized by its self-consciousness and experimentation with narrative structures. Metafiction is a genre within postmodern literature that draws attention to the act of writing itself. Examples of metafictional works include Vladimir Nabokov's Pale Fire and John Fowles' The French Lieutenant's Woman. Magical realism combines elements of the fantastical and the everyday, blurring the boundaries between reality and imagination. Prominent authors associated with magical realism include Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Isabel Allende, and Salman Rushdie. Postmodern poetry is characterized by its experimentation with form, language, and subject matter. Major poets associated with postmodern poetry include John Ashbery, Adrienne Rich, and Charles Simic. Postmodern drama is characterized by its rejection of traditional linear narratives and its exploration of fragmented and nonlinear structures. Playwrights such as Samuel Beckett, Harold Pinter, and Tom Stoppard are known for their contributions to postmodern drama. Postmodern nonfiction blurs the boundaries between fact and fiction, employing subjective perspectives, intertextuality, and narrative experimentalism. Works by authors like Truman Capote, Joan Didion, and David Foster Wallace showcase elements of postmodern nonfiction. It's important to note that these genres are not mutually exclusive, and many works of postmodern literature incorporate elements from multiple genres or defy easy categorization. The postmodern literary age encourages innovation, intertextuality, and a self-conscious exploration of the nature of storytelling and representation. Now this documentary will proceed to the major and well-acknowledged works of Seamus Heaney. Digging from Seamus Heaney's 1966 debut, then his Death of a Naturalist is perhaps his most famous poem, and lastly, Midterm Break, dedicated to his 4-year-old brother's death, left a mark on his readers. And as mentioned earlier, Heaney's translation of the epic Anglo-Saxon poem Beowulf in 2000 is considered groundbreaking. Digging is autobiographical in nature. The speaker, presumably Heaney, is sitting at his writing desk preparing to write when he hears his father working in the garden outside. This conjures memories of the speaker as a young boy listening and watching as his father digs in the potato garden. Death of a Naturalist is a blank verse poem that focuses on the loss of childhood innocence. Heaney looks back to a time when he was a boy, initially enthralled by the local flax dam, an area of boggy water. Midterm Break might be best thought as an elegy, but that doesn't mean it follows a strict form, unlike, say, the sonnet. For its first 21 lines, it's written in tercets or 3-line stanzas. We may often find themes of nature or struggles of his Irish upbringing in his work. However, this documentary will progress towards the themes of the aforementioned poems. Themes of digging. The main theme of Digging is about the connection between physical enactment of a culture and literary reflection on and construction of the cultures. As a writer, Heaney uses the poem to look back on his family's history of being closely connected to the land, planting and digging up potatoes. Themes of Death of Naturalist. The poem meditates on the relationship between human beings and nature and uses that relationship to explore the transition from childhood to adolescence. As the speaker grows up, his relation to nature changes. Instead of enjoying the natural world with innocent curiosity, he finds it threatening and disgusting. Themes of Midterm Break. In Midterm Break, Heaney engages with themes of loss and grief. It focuses on the aftermath of the car accident that killed Heaney's younger brother. The accident is in the background of how everyone around Heaney responds. There is anger, pure sorrow, and detachment that he observes in his family members.
Now let's move towards the characters introduced in his poems. We may observe that his poems have an autobiographical nature. In all the poems discussed, he is always the speaker. In Digging, we have three characters: the author, who is the son, his father, and the grandfather. The author is clearly making a comparison of his way of life and his father's way of life. In Death of Naturalist, we have the speaker, Miss Walls, and the bullfrogs. The speaker in this poem seems to represent Heaney himself, looking back on his childhood. Miss Walls is a teacher the speaker had in his childhood. She is strongly associated with his memory. At first, the presence of bullfrogs is passive, almost decorative, but by the end of the poem, the speaker runs from them. In the poem The Midterm Break, we have the speaker, the parents, Big Jim Evans, and the baby and the brother. The speaker is an older child studying at boarding school who returns to his family's home for a visit. His younger relative, probably a brother, has been hit by a car and killed. The speaker is clearly upset, but is also distressed by the more public-facing expressions of mourning that he encounters. His parents' need for comfort, as well as his friends' and neighbors' attempts at expressing condolences, seem to alienate him and make it hard for him to think about or express his own emotions. Only when he is able to see the remains of his loved one in private and grieve in an introspective rather than a public or ceremonial way is the speaker able to confront the reality of his loss. His father greets him upon arriving and is deep in emotional turmoil, signaled by inconsolable weeping, though he usually doesn't express strong emotions at funerals. His mother, meanwhile, avoids crying and instead expresses anger. This subversion of gender roles may mark the extent to which the child's death has upset the family's normal functioning. A child rather than an elder dies in a terrible subversion of the normal life cycle, and another child must take on an unusual role of support for his parents. Jim Evans is the only one of the mourning family's visitors to be referred to by the name, hinting that he has an unusually close relationship to the family. The actions of the baby indicates that it is another of the speaker's sibling. The actions of a baby create an uncomfortable irony. The baby is unaware of the tense, melancholy mood around it. It laughs and coos in contrast to the tears and whispers of the adults present. The speaker's brother is a character in a loose sense. Since he is not alive at any point during the narrative, the speaker enumerates and describes his brother's various bruises and cuts, detailing how his appearance after death differs from his appearance when alive in a way that lets us know how familiar he is with his brother's normal appearance. Now let's examine Heaney's unique writing style in relation to his three works. In Death of a Naturalist, his writing style showcases his deep connection to nature and the Irish landscape. He employs rich sensory imagery, precise language, and evocative descriptions to bring the natural world to life. While it does not adhere strictly to postmodern characteristics, it reflects Heaney's personal and intimate engagement with the natural world. presenting a clear and accessible narrative. While digging exemplifies Heaney's attention to detail and craftsmanship, his writing is precise and controlled, capturing the sensory experience of digging with vivid imagery. It explores themes of identity and heritage, but it does not embrace the fragmented or non-linear narratives often discussed with postmodernism. Midterm Break demonstrates Heaney's ability to convey powerful emotions through understated language. It explores the deeply personal and universal experience of grief, employing restraint and control. While it does not incorporate explicit postmodern techniques, it engages with the human condition and social rituals surrounding death in a way that is characteristic of Heaney's reflective and introspective style. So far, we have done nothing but glorify this author. Thus, it is only fair to provide the audience with how the critics of his age discern most of his works. Newsweek correspondent Jack Kroll quotes, Heaney makes you see, hear, smell, taste this life, which in his words is not provincial, but parochial. Provincialism hints at the minor or the mediocre, but all parishes, rural or urban, are equal as communities of the human spirit. While the critic and the Parnassus contributor Michael Wood quotes, indeed, Heaney's earliest poetry collections, Death of Naturalist 1966, evoke a hard, mainly rural life with rare exactness. Overall, while Heaney's writing style does not align strictly with postmodern characteristics, his work is marked by his deep connections to nature, meticulous attention to language, and exploration of personal and historical themes. Heaney's style leaned towards a more accessible and introspective approach, emphasizing clarity and precision rather than the fragmented and experimental techniques often associated with postmodernism.